Hey folks, how's it going? You see what I was doing there, right? If there's something interesting that catches my eye, I'll pull out my cell phone and try to take a picture of it, just like most of you guys. Nowadays, most of us have a decent camera on our smartphones. Despite that, we tend to make mistakes while taking photographs. In this video, I'll be sharing with you few simple tips that'll help elevate your photography and take it to the next level. If your image looked something like this, lifeless and missing all the details, then I assure you that after watching this video, you'll be able to capture something better that'll look like this. Without further ado, let's get started, shall we? The first and foremost tip that is extremely important: focus on the subject. Have a look at these images. They look fine until we zoom in and see that the subject is not in focus and looks blurry. That's because sometimes our camera won't be able to recognize the subject and focus on it accurately enough. Now, let's see how to improve focusing on the subject. While taking a picture, don't let the phone decide what your subject should be. Always manually identify the subject, and all you need to do is tap on it. And there you go, you see a ring pop up. And in this case, the subject is the flower. This sets the focus on that part and you get a sharp and peppy image all the time. With manual focus, you can precisely capture the tiniest of subjects in a frame. Once you make this a habit, you can get stunning results and sharper images every single time. Moving on to tip number 2, setting the correct exposure. Now consider this image. It seems too bright, because of which the lovely sunset colors are not being captured correctly. But when the camera gets just the right amount of light, the image looks so much better and the colors just pop up. Let us take an example of this flower. When excess light falls on the sensor, you get an overexposed image and the colors and details look washed out. To fix this, make sure that you are close to the subject so that you minimize the excess light from the surroundings. And again, you tap on the subject, the flower that is, and there you go. You get to see all the vivid colors and the details precisely. The slider you see on the top allows you to set the exposure manually as well. In this example, the camera has chosen to overexpose so that the background is captured as well. But since we are interested only in the fire pit, you can manually set the exposure to portray the fire more accurately. Once you start playing with the exposure settings, you can click brilliant photos with any given camera. Now that we have 2 tips in our mind, let's go for the third tip. That's framing. Sometimes your photo ends up mediocre looking due to the lack of unique elements in the frame. But if you consider something in particular to come into the frame, the photo suddenly becomes very attractive. Now, imagine that you are in the middle of a happening place in a lovely city. You decide to capture the cityscape. First, decide on the elements that need to come into the frame. Like in this picture, the river, which helps in capturing the building reflections, and the sidewalks with different buildings bring up to a lovely image. Here, the trees create a frame for the image, and the bench, being the subject, is at the center of that frame. Also, symmetry is something that tricks our brain, and it shows that things are in order or in the right place. Coming to the last tip in this video, which is about shooting landscape or portrait images. We say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but what if you took only a part of that picture? Well, you may not be able to write a story with that, can you? Because you forgot to rotate your phone or the camera to get a wider angle and see how different it's gonna look, to get the big picture. While the portrait image looks decent, this landscape image can tell you a story or an experience in a much better way. In some cases, if you want to portray how tall or how big the subject is, make sure that you rotate your camera or phone to capture the subject in its entirety. The choice of shooting portrait or landscape photos just builds upon your perspective of what needs to be in the frame. To summarize it all, we learned to focus on the subject, make sure that the exposure is set properly, frame the subject so that the photo we clicked will tell us a story. And we are done with the video for today. Make use of these tips and click more pictures, and do let me know if they helped you in the comments down below. If you like the content, do subscribe to my channel as I'm planning to upload few more videos related to photography tips. Stay safe, see you later.